Join UF Hall of Famer and 14-year NFL vet Shane Matthews every weekday as he brings you all you need to know about your Florida Gators, including news, analysis, and opinions with some of the biggest names in sports. Find us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Or watch us live at 8 a.m. on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter.
Good morning, and you're looking live at PodUp with Matthews in the morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studio. Large enough to serve you, small enough to carry. Got a good show lined up today. We always have Brent Beaird, our college football analyst. If you missed it last night in Major League Baseball, all sweeps in the wild cards. Rangers beat the Rays, Twins beat the Blue Jays, and the Diamondbacks beat the Brewers, and the Phillies sweep the Marlins. So that all cranks up again on Saturday. Let's go to the Titan MR hotline now. We're joined by our college football analyst, Brent Beaird. Good morning, Brent. How you doing?
Well, there are two great things that are going on. Well, I'll add three since I'm a Braves fan. We're looking forward to Atlanta and the Phillies. Two is this weekend is supposed to be 70s and 50s, which in this state, the first 50-degree night ought to be a state holiday, frankly. And the other thing is that is really wonderful. Starting last night, there will be 49 days that we will have either NFL or college football. So that is worth celebrating because we've started, I think earlier this year, frankly, we had Jacksonville State at Middle Tennessee last night and Florida International at New Mexico State. Look at the ball that's during the week. We get excited about that. Sam Houston at Liberty and Western Kentucky at Louisiana Tech that is on tonight. Not great games, but we'll still watch them and we'll be excited about it still.
Yep, for sure. Brent, the polls, the rankings have come out. Anything surprise you anywhere?
Not too much. I mean, Georgia, Michigan, Texas, and Ohio State. Florida State is solidly in at number 5. You've got Penn State. The things that jump out at you are the number of Big Ten teams in the top 10, and you give them credit, and even more, I think, or the number of Pac-12 teams that are also in the top 25, which is impressive. Ole Miss is up to 16 after that LSU win. Now, Miami is 17, so they're getting up there. Utah is still 18, and they'll be better. Hopefully, Cam Rising will be back soon, very soon. But Duke and Kentucky are 19 and 20, which reminds you of basketball. that has started. Missouri's a solid 21. Tennessee and LSU still 23 or 24. And then you've got Louisville, which is a really good team that's playing well. So probably just the number of Big Ten and particularly Pac-12 teams that are in the top 25.
Yeah, well, in the SEC, there's some really good matchups that will play. The winner and the losers of these matchups can work their way into maybe going to Atlanta or not making it to Atlanta.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Obviously, Kentucky and Georgia, the top teams in the East, the top teams in the West, Alabama and A&M play at A&M. LSU at Missouri, that we would have probably yawned at last year, is shaping up to be a very interesting game. Arkansas and Ole Miss, and then Vandy at Florida. See, all these games won't decide who's going to win your division, but they will decide maybe what level of bowl game you're going to. So there's certainly significance in all these games this weekend.
Yeah, LSU, if they lose, they're out of the West probably, I would think.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, we'll see. the passing efficiency, which I've never understood, or the quarterback ratings or stuff, have come out for the transfer quarterbacks this year. Brent, do you even know that formula?
No, I really don't, and it's probably something ridiculously complex at this point. I mean, I can appreciate the quarterbacks involved with it. Sam Hartman's number one. TJ Finley, who has been around the block at Texas State, is number two. It's really amazing how you can go from about 3 or 4 teams and finally end up somewhere where you can really fit in. How that works out, that may be one of the few things really good about the transfer. Jack Plummer at Louisville is up there. Deion Sanders' son is too. Haynes King, remember, used to be at Texas A&M, is at Georgia Tech. I mean, his efficiency rating's high, but they're not winning the games they need to. And J.T. Daniels from Rice, yeah, that J.T. Daniels, who's been at Georgia, he's been at Rice, he's been at West Virginia. I mean, he's been at 4 or 5. I mean, it's just amazing. So, no, I don't have any idea how they come up with that.
Andy has a question here on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mellon Law. It says, Brent, how significant of a recruiting boost will Utah get by its collective providing all scholarship players with a 1-year lease on a Dodge Ram truck?
Well, yeah, people haven't heard this. Utah and their NIL or collective situation is basically providing a truck for everyone. Well, I mean, I'm sure it won't hurt, and that's for sure. I mean, I think at some point, Shane, you just really wonder how ridiculous will this get on down the line. But look, if you're a guy and you don't have much transportation and you love trucks, I'm sure that'd be tempting to be able to do that. So, and Shane, who knows where in the world this is going in a few years?
Very true. Okay, something strange is going to happen next week in Alabama when they play Arkansas. The solar eclipse is going to happen during the game, correct?
Yeah. If you're next week, if you're playing a noon game, and this comes from James Spann, who is the renowned weatherman in Birmingham. He makes note of this, and it's kind of interesting. I won't go into great detail, but during the game, if you're playing a noon game next week, there's going to be a solar eclipse during the game, which basically means that the sun will be blotted out for a period of time. James, if anybody wants to Google it, goes into detail about it with weather things that Shane and I don't understand, but that's okay too. But I mean, it's just a fun note, and he always warns, don't look at the sun directly with a solar eclipse, right, Shane? So, but so that's something we look forward to next Saturday.
Yes, for sure. All right, they've done some stuff with NIL. They can't take these silly pictures or something anymore, and then they've shortened the window for transfers, correct?
Yeah, and this just came out yesterday. The NCAA has approved changes to the transfer portal. The transfer portal windows for football will now be 30 days after the conclusion of the season, as well as 15 days in the spring. The transfer portal for men and women's basketball will be 45 days, 30 days after the season, 15 days in the spring. So what you've got here is previously the window for football and the conclusion of the season was 45 days. So the coaches lobbied and actually got what they wanted, which was a shorter window. And obviously you've heard the complaints about how the transfer portal interferes with so much in roster management. So that's one of the things that they've done, is they have shortened it. We'll get more details on it later, but just wanted folks to be aware that we have another yet another change in the transfer portal.
On YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plumbing, 31M Burr says, Brent, would you say that the SEC has depth but no clear dominant team this year?
That's probably accurate. They've got the usual amount of tremendous talent and depth, but at this point, there really is no one that is running away with it. And look, Georgia obviously is number one team. They're undefeated, but Georgia has some issues, and that was very obvious with the Auburn game. So, and they've got another real challenge this week with Kentucky. So, yes, I would certainly say that. Certainly, the West is wide open right now, and I do think this probably very possible. I'm curious what you think about this, Shane, if there's enough issues with Georgia that you think someone's going to sneak up and beat them before the season's over.
Oh, it could easily happen. I just think they've been starting very, very slow, and I don't think their offense is anywhere near what it was under Stetson Bennett.
It's not.
So,
no.
Yeah. Radware is a family-owned business that prides itself on excellent customer service while providing quality and affordable promotional products and customized apparel. We're speaking with Brent Beaird on the Titan Tomorrow Hotline. We're actually going to have Graham Hall. He did respond, so he will be on the program when Brent leaves us. I got a couple of texts here I want to get to, Brent, before we move on to around the SEC. This is, I'm not sure who this is from, but they say, ask Brent if Auburn is trying to steal our commits and how their close game with Georgia helped with the chances with recruits.
Well, it certainly didn't hurt by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, that was a tremendous performance in a lot of ways. Now, Auburn's strength is their running game and their defense. I mean, they can't throw the ball to save their lives right now. And that's probably going to be, I mean, they'll work on that and they'll get better as it goes. Their offensive line and defensive lines are much improved from last year. And they've got three quarterbacks who really are struggling greatly. The best thing the quarterbacks do is run his own read. But that gave Georgia trouble all day long. So, I don't think there's any doubt Hugh Freeze is in on players that Auburn wouldn't have even been able to sniff last year. So yet there is great improvement in Auburn's recruiting. Absolutely.
Got a text on the Titan Tomorrow text line from Ryan. Wanted to get mine and Brent's opinion on targeting. He's old school and wasn't a fan of it when it was introduced in 2008. But as I'm watching games this year, I haven't seen it called as much. And I've noticed guys letting up or doing a better job of leading with their shoulder or going midsection, especially on QBs when they had the opportunity to absolutely blow the QB up on a blitz and such. Do you think it's taken a generation's worth of teaching and preaching for these college-age kids now to have it ingrained in them? I'm not seeing him as much in games that he's watched. Thanks for the text. I mean, obviously, because, it's hard. I mean, yep. Targeting is targeting, leading with the head. I mean, it's been part of football for many, many years. They're trying to make the game safer. But the bottom line is, it still happens. And I think kids are trying not to because you get kicked out of the game. You miss a lot of time when you're accused of targeting.
Well, and I'll be brief. I think what's happening here is as Shane said, they're being coached better in what not to do and what to do. And I think the other thing I've noticed is in watching games, targeting is being called, but often, or at least more than I thought it was last year, they end up after a review of deciding that it is not targeting, that was not right. The intent of leading with the crown of the helmet. So yes, I think that's an astute observation by the texter.
Yep. All right, Brent, going around the SEC here real quick. Radware is a family-owned business that prides itself on excellent customer service while providing quality and affordable promotional products and customized apparel. All right, there's a huge game between Alabama and A&M. Both teams have one loss, both out of conference. But this is it's a must-win for both teams.
Yeah, in a lot of ways it is. The winner of this game will have a real advantage in the West. And look, this is not complicated. We try to make football complicated, but here's the crux of this game: is can Alabama's offensive line protect Jalen Milroe against the Texas A&M defensive line with guys like Walter Nolan? Now, look, I know it was Auburn and Arkansas, and both those teams have issues, but A&M in the last two games have had 15 or more tackles for loss. I mean, Shane, who does that? That's an amazing stat. And I'm curious if you've seen some clips of Max Johnson. I mean, he's playing well. Connor Weigman's out for the year, unfortunately, but Johnson's come in, and frankly, that offense now under Bobby Petrino, I don't think's missed much of a beat, frankly. So, and Bama's playing better. They've had wins over Ole Miss and Mississippi State. The unit that's really playing better is their defense. Tremez Marshall, the Georgia transfer, has come over. Chris Bradwell has played well. And again, Shane and I are not convinced and may never be convinced that Miro is a real good quarterback, but he has been more efficient, shall we say, during this time. So there is absolutely no question that this may be the most pivotal game that's on both these teams' schedule the rest of the year.
Yeah, for sure. It should be a good one, no doubt about it. Brett on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plumbing, says, good morning, Shane. People are forgetting that Florida is dominated by a roster of freshmen and sophomores. Please, everyone, keep this in mind before you keep calling for the coaching changes. Brett in Jacksonville, thanks for the text. Yes, it's a very young team. But having said that, let them go play. That's my only. Let them go do what they can do. If they make mistakes, that's fine. All right, Arkansas's traveling to Ole Miss. This is a big rivalry game back in the day, in the old days. Ole Miss coming off one of the biggest wins in the Lane Kiffin era. Arkansas coming off a devastating loss. This could be a shaky game for the Rebels, you know, because everybody's patting them on the back there in the Grove and everywhere around town. What do you think, Brent?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, I give them a lot of credit because when they lose to Alabama, they usually lose the next week. This time they did not. They were able to hang in and beat LSU, and we'll talk about LSU's woes in a minute. But Arkansas lost to A&M. I mean, in that A&M series now, they are 1-11. Oof. But it's always a really good game. Rocket Sanders is back, the running back for the Hogs. They had 2 pick sixes in that game, one for each team. A.J. Jefferson was sacked 7 times by Texas A&M. So this is a crucial game for Arkansas, too. They don't need to get in this spiral because Arkansas, I mean, they go to Tuscaloosa next week, so it doesn't get any easier for them. Ole Miss, an unbelievable 706 total yards in the LSU win. Junkins, running back, 33 rushes for 177. Thought to be a signature win. So Shane's right. This is a really crucial game and in the games at Ole Miss. And can Ole Miss, will their mind be right against Arkansas? And because to me, this game's almost a coin flip.
Yeah, it is. It should be another good one to watch for sure. Auburn's off this week. Gators host Vanderbilt for homecoming.
Well, I think they'll get back on the right track against Vanderbilt. I mean, one of the great things about last week was I was able to listen to the radio broadcast, so I got to hear you in the first quarter, which was a very difficult quarter to get through. But I mean, all is not lost here, but I'm also not going to and the point about the experience, and if I may be off on the numbers a little bit, but Kentucky had like 17 seniors in there 2 deep, and I believe the Gators had about 1 or something around there, right? So that's something to keep in mind with this. You also had a head coach in Stoops who's been at Kentucky for double-digit years, and you've got Billy Napier there in 1.5. So, but with that said, I mean that there's still no doubt that Florida's got issues. That they've got intensity issues, they've got tackling issues that they just either could not do or refused to do in the first quarter, which caused them a lot of problems. Still think there's some of and I agree with what you said a minute ago. I think there's some really talented younger players who need to play. They need to be on the field. So that's going to be very important. That they've got Vanderbilt. Then they've got. Now I still think South Carolina is a game they could win, and they need a big road win. Shane, correct me if you disagree, but look, South Carolina's got about as many problems as Florida does. I'm not overlooking Vanderbilt because I think they'll win, but if they could hit 2 in a row, that will be very helpful for them.
Yeah, especially going into the bye week. And, we just got to let the kids go play. Georgia, Kentucky, big game in Athens. It seems like it's always a big game. It seems last few years. But it just feels a little bit different. And I don't know if it's because I just saw Kentucky take it to us. But as you said, it's an older team, and Georgia's not what they've been. Do they have any chance to beat Georgia?
Well, the game's in Athens. I think if it was in Lexington, that would be a bigger chance with this. Now, by the way, I'm speaking to the Georgia Bulldog Club here in Jacksonville tonight, so that will be interesting. And I talked to a Georgia beat writer this week about Georgia, and he made a really good point. And look, let's be honest, their defense, their front seven, is not as good as it has been. And the point that the beat writer made was Georgia's lost about at least a dozen, if not 15 players a year to the NFL the last 2 years. I mean, Shane, you get all sides of that from playing in the league. You can't lose that many players every year and at some point it not affect you. And this year it's affecting them. So they've had a lot of injuries at running back. They've had some guys. I thought Dom Lovett coming over from Missouri would be tremendous, and he really has been, frankly, somewhat disappointing. I think Carson Beck's been fine. Really, the zone read is hurting Georgia badly. So, and see, I think Georgia will be sick of hearing about Ray Davis by Saturday. And I think they'll contain. No one's going to stop him, but I think they can contain him, which puts a lot of pressure on Devin Leary, who's about a 59% passer, to be better. So I think that's where the game is going to be won or lost. But look, and this guy's really going up my Heisman Trophy group. But Brock Bowers basically won the Auburn game. In the fourth quarter. Shane, have you ever seen anybody that has the instincts that he does to get open? I mean, it seemed like every ball he catches, he is wide open, or he's got a 5-yard cushion on the defender.
Yeah,
it's just amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, and he's explosive and faster than people think, I believe. You know, I'd be interested. I don't know a lot of his upbringing, but the way he played, I bet he played quarterback at some point in his career because, you know, Travis Kelce was a quarterback when he went to Cincinnati. So knowing kind of where the soft areas of zones and how to get open. And, you know, I bet Brock Bowers was a quarterback at one time would be my guess. But yeah, he's one of the best players in America. There is no question about that. Brent, LSU's traveling to Missouri, and I don't know if Missouri's ever had a game this big.
Maybe not. And even though LSU's lost a couple of games, people still think, and rightfully so, that LSU really is good, and they've got great players. Here's the thing with LSU. that I really thought we'd never see is Missouri. Missouri's pass offense is 7th in the country. Their offense has really gotten improving. We'll talk about them in a second. LSU's pass defense, Shane, is 130 in the nation, and I believe there's 131 teams. I didn't think we'd ever see that. That is amazing to me. And unfortunately, their safety, Greg Brooks Jr., who came over from Arkansas, we talked a week or so ago that he had to have brain surgery. And unfortunately, they have found a rare form of brain cancer in him. So our prayers and thoughts go out to he and his family. But, I mean, the point of that is that's really difficult for them to deal with. And the other thing about LSU being 130 in the nation in pass defense is you've got Luther Burden. Speaking of Brock Bowers, and again, if people haven't heard of Luther Burden, he was a high-rated recruit that went to Missouri, and he has just absolutely been on fire. Frankly, he's among the leaders, if not the leader in the nation, in receiving. Brady Cook, now get this, Shane, 347 consecutive passes without an interception. That's an SEC record, and Cody Schrader at Missouri is I mean, he is doing well at running back. So, Shane, how many times would we have said that you go into a game, LSU and Missouri may have the better offensive players?
Yeah, that's true. Now, LSU, offensively, they've been putting up some points and some yards as well. Jalen Daniels has played outstanding. He's got some good wideouts. But, yeah, the old DBU, as the LSU likes to call themselves, they couldn't cover me and Brent running any routes this year.
No,
it doesn't look like. Brent, pretty much all the other teams in the SEC, Mississippi State plays, I think, Western or Central Michigan. Everybody else is off this week. Let's jump to the ACC real quick, man. Duke gave one away. I felt horrible the other night, and then the last play of the game, their star quarterback goes down with an ankle injury. It's not very serious, is it?
Well, it's a high ankle sprain that he's got, and you would understand that more than most of us. When it's that high ankle sprain that just takes longer to help me on this. It just takes longer to get over. And now it's not an ACL, it's nothing like that, but he still is going to miss some time with that high ankle sprain.
Yeah, for sure. So it's a shame because he's a really good player, and boy, they let that game get away in the last seconds. I don't know what week. It should be coming up pretty soon when Miami and FSU play each other. I would assume they're going to be undefeated.
Yes.
But I don't know if either one of them play the Louisville Cardinals. But if anybody's ever listened to my program the last 3 or 4 years, how long we're doing this, they know how I feel about Jeff Brom as a play caller. I don't know if either one of them play him, but they better look out because he can call plays. They sputtered around the other night against NC State, but found a way to win the game. What other nuggets you got for us from the ACC?
No doubt. And look, Louisville is, I mean, when he gets really going, Jeff Brom with his players, it is going to be amazing. Miami hosts Georgia Tech. Cameron Kitchens is actually back. Their safety, he got hurt in the Texas A&M game, so they're very happy about that. FSU plays Virginia Tech. I don't know if any team in a long time has fallen off the map like Virginia Tech has. We knew Virginia had for a while. Tennessee, if people haven't heard, that Brew McCoy, one of the better wide receivers in the SEC, had an awful fracture dislocation in his ankle. He's out for the year. So South Carolina is off this week too. Now they obviously lost to Tennessee in that what you call a revenge game. So and South Carolina lost Antoine Wells one of their better wide receivers for a while too. Mississippi State plays Western Michigan, and they need a game like this. They've really struggled. They made a change in the offense going away from the air raid, so that has been a major problem for them. So, but Shane, again, as always, it's a big week to say the least, and Auburn is off too. I think we mentioned that if anyone's tuning in late. So we've got several teams who are off this week, and they are trying to anytime you have an off week, it's a good time to be able to do it. So we're heading in October, and we'll see more off weeks coming up in the next few weeks.
No doubt. And Louisville is hosting Notre Dame.
And they may win. Listen, they may win.
They're going to win that game. They're going to win that game. Book it. That is my upset of the week. Brent, great stuff as always. Enjoy your night with the dogs tonight. And we'll talk to you next week, my man.
Good. Can't wait, bud. Take care.
That's Brent Beaird, our college football analyst and Heisman Trophy voter. Join us on the Titan Tomorrow Hotline. Going to take a quick timeout, come back. We got a bunch of texts to get to. We're going to have Graham Hall talking Gators from 24/7 Sports. You're watching and listening to PodUp with Matthews in the morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. We'll be right back.
We want to take this moment to thank our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our premium sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, the only official injury and accident law attorneys of the Florida Gators. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. QC Kinetics, live pain-free with QC Kinetics. Campus USA, put some star power to work in your financial life with Campus USA Credit Union. Dave & Buster's, eat, drink, play, watch. Our gridiron sponsors are Auto ER, UF Bookstores, Silverback Concrete, Ruse Ogre State Farm Insurance, Radware, F45, Quality Plumbing. Our touchdown sponsors are Adams Ribs, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Okido America, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, Big Mills Cheesesteak, McDonald's of Gainesville, 84 Lumber, Dowling Signs, Baker's Sporting Goods, Silver Q Billiards and Sports Bar. If you're interested in promoting your business on the show, call Freddie at 352-284-3733. If you like what we're doing here, make sure to follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Pro football legend Emmitt Smith understands your joint pain.
It does not surprise me that there are a ton of people out there that's in pain.
That's why Emmitt is such a proponent of QC Kinetics, offering real lasting joint pain relief with non-surgical, all-natural biologic treatments.
Whether it's a joint pain, ankle pain, shoulder pain, neck pain, back pain, hip pain, any kind of pain, the body eventually will break down when it's under that much stress.
That stress can cloud your judgment to the point that you'll just say yes to the scalpel or yes to another prescription of pain pills. But maybe it's time for a second opinion from QC Kinetics.
The reason why I would recommend this is because the natural biologics that QC Kinetics is providing you gives your body a chance to naturally heal itself.
Restorative, regenerative solutions are here. Get lasting relief and live your life.
Call QC Kinetics, 352-400-4550. That's 352-400-4550. QC Kinetics, 352-400-4550.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Silverback Concrete's a family-led team of heavy concrete specialists that build commercial structures with unrivaled quality. Silverback Concrete, you stand on it, we stand by it. We're going to go back to the Titan MRR hotline. We're going to be joined by Graham Hall. 24/7 Sports does a tremendous job covering the Gators. Good morning, Graham. How you doing, bud?
Good morning, Shane. How you doing? Good to be here always.
I'm doing all right. Yeah, man. All right, let's there's a bunch of Facebook Lives. Basically, let's just kind of touch on them. There's so many of them brought to you by Meldon Law regarding the offense, okay? I mean, we've talked about this nonstop. Billy addressed it in his last couple of press conferences. But somebody said something that I see an article written when he was the offensive coordinator at Clemson, I think maybe in 2011, that people are chatting kind of the same thing the Gator Nation's chatting now. I don't know if you've seen that, but does Billy make any changes to the way he calls plays moving forward this year, in your opinion?
This year, no, I don't think so. I think that he continues to evaluate things regularly, but I've been saying this for weeks, even back since July. These decisions were made before the season that he was going to keep being the play caller. And I think anyone asking him to blow things up right now, make any drastic changes in the middle of the season when Florida's sitting here at 3-2, yeah, the losses weren't great, but a chance to be 5-2 heading into the bye week, I think it can do more harm than good personally. You can obviously speak to what it can, from an intangible aspect, the message it can send to your team's, players. It can signal a lack of faith. It can signal that maybe you're panicking and you're not as confident in your foundation that you expressed over the past, not even just the past 8 months, but since you've been here, the past 20 plus months in Gainesville. I think he's going to evaluate. He's going to take, information that he has. There are some people on the staff, guys like Russ Calloway, who I think have a offensive play calling background, but to ask him to blow it up right now in the middle of the season, that doesn't make too much sense to me. And listen, if you're a Florida fan, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but just think about it this way. If you're bringing up the fact that Billy Napier was fired from Clemson 12 years ago, I mean, I don't know what good that does personally. One, I don't think any one of us wants. I was fired at a pizza place probably, 12 years ago. I don't want anyone bringing that up about the job I'm doing right now. People grow, people develop. He obviously has come a long way since then. He's learned a lot. I mean, he was like, my age, early 30s when he was at Clemson. The guy has absolutely progressed and learned a lot. And now we're kind of picking him apart here because of a loss to a really good Kentucky team. And that is just, in my opinion, kudos to Billy Napier for having tough skin, because a lot of that stuff is just unfair in my mind. It's taking away from the actual issues here at play for this Florida team.
Yeah, I wouldn't say make a change now or blow anything up. I would like to see us get more aggressive from a play calling standpoint, because I've been bringing up Graham on this show because and Josh did this for me. He reached out to somebody, and let me find this text on the Titan MR text line, because I'm a big proponent. If we're going to throw the football, let's put our 4 fastest, best players on the field. That'd be Andy Jean, Mizell, Trey Wilson, and Ricky Pearsall, and let's go play. And so he asked, I don't know, one of those sites on Twitter that breaks down every team in America. So listen to this. 2022 and 2023 so far, the Gators have lined up with 4 true wide receivers on the field twice. In that same time, the USC Trojans have done it 383 times. So that's the only thing is I would just love to see us come out in 4 wides, first series, throw the ball, go fast. If we punt twice, I don't care, but we're allowing people to make plays. And I saw this on Twitter too, and it irritates the hell out of me. I don't get it. And it's talking about Graham Mertz. This person says he is who he is. He's a game manager who isn't going to beat you by himself. That's not his fault. Florida needs a game changer at quarterback, not a manager. I totally disagree with that comment. And the reason I do is because, is he a game manager? Well, he looks like a game manager because that's all they're allowing him to do. They're not asking him to, hey, go win us a football game. So anyway, I'm going through a tangent here, but yeah, you cannot blow up the offense now until next year. But we got to also remember this Kentucky loss, our defense was horrible.
Yeah, I think that when it comes to Florida's defense, there were some people that believed maybe that coming into this game, the statistics were very promising to Florida and that this team was still maybe not a top 5 national defense. And I think that was a fair belief to say, but this was just a poor showing by them. I mean, we hadn't really harped on the amount of missed tackles that this team had in the Kentucky game because it really wasn't an issue this season. I mean, they missed 3 tackles at Utah. They were averaging just over 4 per game. We had not seen 17, 18 missed tackles throughout the start of the season. So I think that was more like an outlier in a sense. I saw this to Billy Napier last night. I don't think that just because you have a bad performance that it's necessarily indicative of a flaw in your system necessarily. I mean, this is a lot of young guys, a lot of first-year players on this defense, and to think that they can't improve from this doesn't make too much sense to me. I think that putting stuff on film, learning from it, going back out there, implementing it, that's going to be the progression that Florida makes. That's how they're going to progress. It's not going to be from wiping the slate clean, blowing things up, emphasizing more tackling drills in the middle of the season, whatever you all want. I just think that this is a situation where Florida's going to have to fill gaps, make tackles, wrap up, play with an edge, and Shane, I'm interested for your thoughts on this as well. You know, when you're a reporter sitting in these rooms and you're asking coaches about kickoff times and preparation for the road, sometimes coaches can scoff at that. And I'm not saying Billy Napier did that, but Florida was coming off of 4 straight night games, and then they go play a noon game on the road against a team that had just played a noon game a week earlier. And then they come out after the game and say that, yeah, we lacked an edge from the beginning of the game. That is something that Florida needs to correct. That's one of the things that I think that they need to work on, not blowing up anything schematically or changing the defense too much. They just need to come out and play with the fire that we saw in those night games against Tennessee, even against, Charlotte and McNeese. They need to play with that edge moving forward, no matter the time. That is one of the things. I think that's a fair criticism for this team. But to be insinuating that we should make some wholesale changes to the defense after that performance, I'm still in the camp that was a lot of an outlier in a sense, and that they can improve from this. As for the game manager thing, I was one who used that term time and time again, that Graham Mertz was going to be a game manager quarterback. And I think maybe what I meant by that was that that's what Florida was going to initially intent to use him as. Now, I think now through 5 games, we can say that Graham Mertz has been a lot better than a lot of people indicated. And Shane, you called this one correctly. The guy has a better arm. He's a better thrower than many people expect. And now that Florida has seen that kind of in a similar way, once they saw what Anthony Richardson could really do, these final 7 games, it's going to be interesting to see if they give Mertz more opportunities to use his arm, to be a decisive thrower, to have 4 wide out and take advantage of that speed and space that you're talking about. If they don't do that, I think it's more of an indictment of the coaching staff not putting that faith in the quarterback that has shown that when given the opportunity, yeah, he's going to miss some, but he's going to hit a lot of those too, and you've got to give him more opportunities. I would be surprised if we don't see that moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, I hear people, he missed this throw, he missed that. Hell, every quarterback in the world misses throws. You got to just keep calling them. 1966 HBC beer is available at Spurs Gridiron Grill, Gator Games in the Swamp, and select retail outlets. Crisp American Lager, 1966 HBC beer. All right, this is a text on the Titan Mar text line from Josh in Mississippi. He says, I saw on Twitter from a guy who's a student and talks to players apparently, who said the team works out hard during the week, so they are drained by game day. Don't teams usually try to stay at a level during the season with minimal gains to avoid that? Not sure how true that is. When you say workout, I don't know if you're talking about like a practice or if you're talking about in the weight room. I mean, I'm sure practice-wise, it's just normal practice like every other team in the world does. From a weight room standpoint, I don't know. Do you know anything about that, Graham?
There's nothing that I've heard from talking to people that indicates that practices are too intense throughout the week, that they're drained by the start of the game. That's not how it's set up. They're not doing extra workouts. I can kind of shut that down, honestly. Let me just say, no offense to anyone out there, because there is good information out there that you got to pick apart. Don't believe everything that you read online, especially if it comes from an anonymous Twitter account. No disrespect to anyone out there whatsoever, but if you're willing to believe, I don't even want to call it a conspiracy, but if you're willing to believe the theory that Florida's performances are affected by working out too hard during the week, I don't buy into that. And I caution people to believe that to not believe that there's some structural issue here, that Florida's burning their guys out. That's not what's happening, because I've been given no indication of that. Now, I'm not saying it can't be true for some people. There may be some guys who are just so tired throughout the week that they are still tired by game day. That could be true for some guys, but to say it's a wholesale across the board thing, I've never heard anything to indicate that.
Yeah, me neither. Graham, from a health standpoint, there's some folks on the depth chart came out, so they're out or had some issues. What are you hearing who may be out for this game?
Honestly, they could be even more banged up than the depth chart indicated, right? I mean, that was a physical Kentucky game. This offensive line has been banged up throughout the season. They've had guys playing through some lingering things, kind of like, Austin Barber has been battling through some stuff throughout these weeks. And whether he goes or not, that's going to be an interesting thing to see, seeing he's listed as questionable. I think that you benefit from Jake Slaughter having gotten those early reps if Kingsley is once again unable to go. It's an interesting situation. Once again, I think that you have a lot of guys that are looking towards the bye week, need to recover, certainly, and guys have been playing through injuries. And the worst thing that Florida could hope for in this game is that they need to put some guys in position who are maybe they'd like to rest a little bit, but they need to win this narrow Vanderbilt game, right? That would be, I think, one of the worst case scenarios that Florida, from an injury perspective, could experience. But this should be a situation where you don't need to play Trevor Etienne too much. You don't need to put some of these wide receivers maybe out there in dangerous situations. Guys like Marcus Burke, they should be able to beat this Vanderbilt team. This is not last year's Vanderbilt team. Ray Davis is, as Florida fans know, on a different roster right now, still doing damage, but on a different roster. And this would be a devastating loss for Florida if they lose this game to Vanderbilt. And you're hoping that that's not even a consideration by the second half, so you can get some of these inexperienced young guys in, because absolutely the offensive line is banged up. Trevor Etienne is a little bit banged up. You need to make sure that those injuries don't become long-term ones. And I think that that's one of the big things for Florida. They're going to have to rely on some younger guys, because this is a team where there's double-digit guys who are dealing with lingering injuries or they're banged up right now, and you want to make sure that you get them healthy, because as Billy Napier said, continuity on the offensive line is going to be big for this team for the second half of the season. They want to have that offensive line at full strength. They haven't really had that to start the season. And if you want to see that ground game that we saw last year, it's going to hinge on that offensive line. So you can't be losing guys to further injury because they're put in dangerous situations and some lingering ailments become long-term things. That can't be the case for Florida. And that's why I think they're being a little cautious on the depth chart right now.
Yeah, on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plumbing, Chris says Seton, whoever Seton is, will be in the swamp this weekend with Lagway. We need to lock it up. Graham, you know all about recruiting. Who's Seton?
Yeah, if you want to go to Swamp 247, Blake Alderman crushes the coverage. Check it out as well. Jay Seton is a guy that, Florida is absolutely looking at. You want to wrap this guy up. And let me just speak in general about recruiting, because I do think that there's a week-to-week following of who's coming on campus and keeping this class together, which is now ranked number 4 by 247 Sports. I do think that continuing to gain momentum on the recruiting trail, as much as the win-loss column matters for the future of Billy Napier, recruiting is going to be a massive thing for Florida. And so keeping guys like Lagway coming to campus, working as recruiters, getting guys like Seton on campus and continuing to push for them, and so that they see that even though the results on the field are not necessarily fully desirable for this program, this is a very bright future for a lot of guys. You see inexperienced young players in contributing roles. They should return a lot of talent next year. Who knows how the portal obviously is going to go, but they shouldn't be losing a ton of veteran depth from this team. So young players realizing that they can come in, buy in for a program on the rise. Players are seeing that, and I don't want fans to lose sight of that just because of the focus being on the current season. There's a lot of reason to believe for these highly rated prospects that coming here is a really, really good thing for their football career, from playing to, especially defensive coordinator Austin Armstrong, all the additions that Florida has made. There's a lot of reason to still be really high on the future of the Florida program under Billy Napier. And I think that until that changes, until Florida loses some recruiting momentum, some guys hop out of the class, for me individually, I'm not panicking about Billy Napier and his coaching staff's long-term future. And long-term I use loosely because we know what that means in college football. That could mean 1 year, right? So I'm not necessarily panicking. I caution fans to look at the recruiting ranks and just see that until guys fall out of this class, until we lose some momentum, there's still a lot of faith from the people that matter in the program in Billy Napier. The parents signing their kids up to come play for him, the players still playing for him, the transfer portal additions that Florida is going to be after the season. Until Florida loses some momentum in that regard, the roster building aspect, I'm definitely not even close to being out on Billy Napier at Florida, because I think that keeping that class together last year, keeping this class together and building it this year. Those are two of the most promising things that Billy has done in Gainesville, and they can't be overlooked.
Lou's Ogre State Farm offers a team of dedicated insurance professionals ready to help life go right with the right insurance options for you and your family. Visit ogreinsurance.com, 352-240-1779. A few more minutes here with Graham Hall from 24/7 Sports. J&J Trucking says on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plumbing, Billy preaches discipline, but lines up every day with too many players and not enough players, then gets mad when he is called out. Bro, fix it. Graham, just touching on special teams, obviously there's been some blunders, it seems like, every game. We had 13 on the field this past week, but that was defense. I don't understand. And I think it's not only a coaching issue, but it's a player issue as well. And I noticed, in high school and some places, they have that little mat that they lay down, usually about a 50-yard line with the dots. And it's usually 10 dots, because if you're punting or kicking off or whatever, the kicker's taken care of. Kentucky had one. We don't have one. Maybe we need to invest in one. But do you think we can get that fixed?
That's a really good point about the mat. I'll be honest, I did not know that. I didn't notice that. And that would be a wise addition if it gets Florida to have the correct personnel on the field every single time for a special teams play. What I will say let me just address how Billy responds to a criticism, right? Because I don't want to get it misconstrued or confused. When Billy gets asked a tough question and he seems upset or he seems bothered, he's not necessarily mad about the tough question as long as it's fair, right? If you ask him about a legitimate special teams issue that they made, he answers and admits that, there's no one more upset about it than him. So that is what you are seeing. You're seeing a guy who knows what the problem is. He's being reminded about it in the aftermath. He knows it needs to get fixed, and he's not going to trivialize it. He's not going to take it lightly because it is bothering him more than I guarantee you it's bothering you at home watching the game. So that is the reaction you're seeing. He is not mad at the reporters asking about penalties, special teams play, lack of physicality, whatever you want to call it. He's mad that they happen because he is taking accountability for this program. And I see people say like, oh, he's mad, he's getting defensive. No. He understands that he doesn't really have valid responses to a lot of the criticism, right? He understands that they're happening. They need to correct it on a week-to-week thing. And when it keeps rearing its ugly head in games, he knows that that's a whole week where he's going to have to hear the noise, just work on it. Kind of like what Will Mischamp was saying, where they work on it all week in practice and they come out and keep doing it. You're seeing a frustrated coach who he still has, got faith in these guys and just knows that they got to just keep working at it. But when the problems keep arising, he's obviously as frustrated as anyone, and he's trying to, I think, temper his anger at that situation because he is so emotionally even-keeled at times. He doesn't get too angry or too even confident sometimes in his team. So I think you're just seeing that from him. He's not mad at the question. He's just mad that it's happening. And ultimately, that's what you want from a head coach, someone who's not going to fly off the handle, but is upset at the issues and is confident they're going to get corrected. I do think after this season, going back to what we talked about earlier, there's going to be some infrastructure changes that are going to be considered for Florida's coaching staff, whether it's an offensive coordinator, an on-field special teams coordinator, whatever you want to call it. There's going to be some things that they evaluate in the aftermath. But right now, during this season, all they can do is week to week try and get those guys out on the field. And last thing I'll say, it is one thing to have 13 men on the field. That is a penalty. Be mad at that. That makes no sense at times, okay? But there are situations where they can have 10 men on the field for a punt return, and depending on the distance, it's okay to be in punt safe and not necessarily have a returner out there, in my mind. And Billy Napier, I think, seems to agree. The numbers indicate that makes sense still. And the way Florida has been on punt returns, sometimes it is a little more beneficial to not have someone out there who could maybe lose you some yards in a sense. So I do think that some of the criticisms are overblown, but when you have seen Billy Napier react to them, he's just as upset as y'all, if not a lot more so, that they are happening. He's not upset that they're being brought up in the aftermath.
Yeah. Graham, great stuff as always. Before we get you out of here, let them know how you can follow you on Twitter and the deals y'all have going on right now.
Hey, I know I always ramble, so let me just say thanks for having me on to, answer any questions. If you have anything that I didn't get to, you can reach out to me at swamp247.com. Follow me on Twitter at Graham Hall no more underscore at Graham Hall. I'm so used to saying that. I got rid of that dumb underscore. So follow me there. I got great coworkers in Jacob Rudner and Blake Alderman. They do a fantastic job. The best in the business in covering Florida men's basketball. Jacob Rudner, follow him if you're not recruiting. Blake Alderman is always consistent, no fluff. He's going to tell you how it is. So follow us there. We got a good deal going on right now. 2 months for $1. If you just want to try us out, that's pennies on the day, man. That's a cent a day for 2 months. So come on over, join the community, and we'll be back here pretty soon, of course, to talk some Florida, hopefully for you all, after a dominant Florida victory over Vanderbilt. So always my pleasure, Shane.
Yep. Good stuff as always, Graham. Appreciate it, buddy. Have a good week. We'll see you Saturday at the game. That's Graham Hall. Join us on the Titan Tomorrow Hotline. This Day in Sports brought to you by our good friends at Campus USA Credit Union. Put some star power to work in your financial life with Campus USA Credit Union. In 1991, Fresno State ties an NCAA football record of 49 points in the second quarter as they rout New Mexico 94-17 at Bulldog Stadium. That's This Day in Sports brought to you by Campus USA Credit Union. Hope y'all enjoyed today's program. Have a great day, folks. We'll see you tomorrow. Take care.